Welcome to the 2023 Candidates Forum, sponsored by Wallingford Community Women in conjunction with Wallingford Government Media. I'm Jean McFarland, the program moderator. This segment features 8 of the 14 candidates running for Town Council. The format will be as follows. The first part of the program will consist of questions asked of the candidates by 2 reporters from the Record Journal. They are Kate Ramuni, Wallingford reporter, and Crystal Eliscano, reporter for the Latino Communities Reporting Lab. We also have a student, Leah Butts, from Sheehan High School. During the question and answer portion of the program, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. The opposing candidate will have 1 minute to provide their comments. Rebuttal. After the question and answer period, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing statements. Before beginning the questioning, I'd like to introduce 8 of the candidates running for Town Council. They are Joseph Maroney, Republican, Jason Michael, unaffiliated but endorsed by the Democrats, Jeffrey Necchio, Republican, Jesse Reynolds, Democrat, Christopher Regan, Republican, Vincent Testa, Democrat, Christina Tata, Republican, and Daryl Stancuna, unaffiliated. Kate Romani, would you please ask the first question of Joseph Marone?
Hi. One of the most controversial issues in town today is the proposal to consolidate the high schools. As a member of the town council, would you vote in favor of bonding should the Board of Education come before you?
So that's a great question. And, I was on the Board of Ed for 6 years, and it's something, I have a passion for education, right? So I think the first question needs to be, if we're going to do one high school, why is one high school better than 2? Right? There's all kinds of studies that say that a smaller school is more efficient, better education for students than a larger school, right? So why do we think in Wallingford we can break the mold and do the thing that, the experts and the surveys say that we can't do, right? So your question was about bonding. So I think if we agree as a community, because this is a community decision, this isn't just a Board of Ed or a council decision, this is a community decision, right? So if the whole community decides that one school is the way to go, then I don't think you have any choice but to bond it, right? Because you're not going to take it out of your savings, and if that's the goal that you're going to accomplish. But I yet to remain convinced that one school is really the answer. I think if you have 2 schools, there's a few ways you could look at it, right? Like right now we just have 2 sides of town and we try to make them completely equal, which is fine. But you could also have a system where, say, you had one school that was, say, more geared towards science and another school geared towards the arts. And you let students choose which school they want to go to. You create sort of 2 magnet schools within the same community. So I don't think we've crossed the line yet of what is better for students. Is one school settles a lot of economic problems, but it doesn't necessarily settle any educational problems. So I guess would I be in favor of bonding it if that were the decision that the community made? But I don't think we're nearly there yet. And quite frankly, I think there's more we can do with 2 buildings than with 1. So thanks for the question, Kate.
Jason Michael, would you please make your comments?
Thank you. So it's not quite the salacious answer you're probably looking for, but it's almost 2-part. In my heart, I like the 2-school format. I was a graduate of Lyman Hall. My wife, Sheehan, we both got to go to different schools and had different experiences that were completely unique from one another. That being said, I was in the room the night the presentation was made, and I commend the Board of Ed. Probably a ton of work was done to deliver that, and I got a lot of information about the one school theory. I didn't get a whole lot about 2, and for rough numbers, let's say it's $220 million for this one school project. It's a lot of money, but what does that $200 million do for each individual school should we keep them both? So to answer which one I prefer is tough without the information being fully delivered on both sides. As far as bonding, that's a no-brainer to me. If the decision's made to spend that kind of money, I have no doubts it will head to referendum, and it should, without a doubt, head to referendum, as
Thank you.
we will pay the bill.
Leah Butts, would you please ask the next question of Jason Michael?
Of course. Mr. Michael, what are some measures you can take as a member of the town council in order to ensure the safety of all citizens during a global climate crisis, keeping in mind that Wallingford Public Schools had a significant number of half-days at the beginning of the year due to unsafe temperatures within our school buildings?
That's an easy one. Not an easy one. Well, I mean, first, I think we can certainly address what the big topic is right now, especially with the news that just came out about mandating electric cars by, I think, 2035. I think that's a huge, huge issue to tackle. We certainly can look into, I know just from one of the counselors who sits up here, currently the use of an electric car is amazing, and with solar combined makes a wonderful dent in what we're facing with climate change. As far as the schools go, I know there was some grants that we missed out on. I don't know that we would have qualified due to the size of the projects that needed to be done. That being said, it's without a doubt, grants should be unearthed, and if not, then bonding should go out to at the very least, allow students to complete full days on the harshest of weather days, mostly the hot ones.
Thank you. Joseph Marone.
Thank you.
Comment.
So the question's about climate change, and I think if you look at the school as a whole, and you look at where we're really, what's the least green or the dirtiest part of the school system, and it is we have old buildings with old boilers that are all fossil fuels. Not that you're going to be able to get away from fossil fuels, because let's be frank, we live in New England. You're not going to power, heat the schools based on electricity, right? But I think that we have old buildings with old boilers, and I think you need to start looking at what's the future of the school system going to look like. And we have some schools in town that are super inefficient in the way that they're laid out, Highland and Rock Hill, and that they're spread out over a large area. There's a lot of area to heat. So I think if you want to talk about making the school system greener, you have to start looking at what's the best configuration for the future. Is it having 12 small schools, or having larger schools, or is it just having new buildings that are just more energy efficient than the ones that we have? So I think that there's a lot of efficiency gains that could be made if you sort of looked at what the newer technologies are. The school buildings are old, they weren't designed to last this long, and so I think you have to start looking at replacements, and I think that's where you can start attacking the sort of climate issue. Thank you very much.
Crystal Eliscano, would you please ask the next question of Jeffrey Necchio?
Wallingford has a low minority population of only around 20%. What should Wallingford do to encourage people of color to move into the community, and should this be prioritized?
Well, I think our town has to be seen as a welcome, open community, and I think we try to do a good job. I've been chairman of the board of directors of the Spanish community of Wallingford since 2015, and we work every day to make sure that people that our agency is open to not only Hispanics but to everyone. But we focus on connecting our clients with the programs and services to make them successful and integrated members of our community. So we really work very hard to do that. I think just as a town, we just have to break down those barriers, and I think agencies like SCOW do that. So that's my thought.
Jesse Reynolds.
I think that's a really good question. I wish I had a good answer. No, I'm kidding. I think that we could do more to make Wallingford be an affordable place for people to live, and I think that would encourage people from all backgrounds, walks of life, et cetera, to come here. And so that's the first thing. We have to make Wallingford be a place that is affordable for people to live, and therefore will attract more people. If we have issues with, unavailability of housing for purchase, or as was mentioned in the earlier session, those are things that we would have to address. We would also need to address this in the school by celebrating diversity more, by encouraging, to learn more about other cultures and things, and again, really just promote diversity more than what we do now, but I think we do a pretty good job.
Kate Ramuni, would you please ask the next question of Jesse Reynolds?
The town has less than half of the 10% deed restricted affordable housing that the state requires in order to not fall under its affordable housing statutes. Do you think the town should do more to encourage affordable housing developments?
Well, piggybacking on what I said earlier, absolutely, I think we should. I think we could do more to encourage developers to be able to include affordable units in what they build. I think the incentive housing zone downtown creates the opportunity for more dense housing, which could then include more affordable housing. I think that we need to do more to allow people who are just starting out in their careers, coming back from college, or maybe moving here with a young family to be able to afford to live here, and affordable housing is that thing. At the same time, we have to have a delicate balance with respect to development so that people can still build other things that are affordable so that developers will continue to build in town. The other things that we could do is probably do more with, perhaps zoning, or even if we talk about technology, making town records and things a little bit more accessible online for people who want to develop, as opposed to having to come directly to town hall during business hours. I know places like Meriden have expanded the GIS mapping systems that they have and that are available through their town hall and town clerk's office. So I think we can do a lot of things to increase the participation of developers in town, and we could do more to include affordable housing as part of that plan. Thank you.
Jeffrey Necchio.
I absolutely agree with Jesse. I think we need to actually focus on the center of town with affordable housing. Affordable housing is an issue not only in Wallingford, but across the state and across the country. And you look at the reasons why. I mean, it's expensive to build a house, and it's also, there's just not enough inventory out there. So we really need to focus on, I think the center of town is the appropriate place to do it, to get more inventory out there for young families, and actually even for, families that are established, because finding a house with 2 bedrooms is a difficult thing for a family that just makes, a moderate income now. So, I think it's an opportunity for us to build up on our downtown, and then it's a nice place where you'll have access to transportation with the train, and I think it could be part of a bigger development overall plan. Thank you.
Leah Butts, would you please ask the next question of Christopher Regan?
Of course. Mr. Regan, recently there has been a lot of commotion based on the proposal of 2 public high schools in town unifying as one. How do you feel about Sheehan and Lyman Hall combining into one high school, and how might those changes affect Wallingford traditions?
Sure. First, my head says that the one school solution is the way to go. My heart's not sure if a 2 school, to maintain and keep 2 schools. Going down the road, it is in the best interest of the children. Bottom line, there is no question, and we need to adopt and look forward to a charter revision in order to put it to referendum of the citizens. As far as their traditions, new traditions can be made in a one high school solution that can become rivalries with other towns and other locations. We will have more availability of sports, team diversity, different types of teams where we may only have 3 or 4 people at one school, 7 or 8 at the other. But really, we look at the past within the traditions, we honor and cherish those, and then move forward with new ones if that's what the will of the people choose.
Vincent Testa.
Thank you. I think it's important for everybody to remember what the roles are of the various elected boards in this community. Educational decisions are the job of the Board of Education, and it is the job of the town council to decide whether what they want to do is affordable or not, and if so, how do we go about paying for it? Having said that, the 1 versus 2 school issue is, of course, such a large, emotional, and serious issue that the council is going to have more of a say in it as opposed to just writing a check. But I think it's important to know that we're not at a point now where I think the public has had an opportunity to have enough of a say in it. And it's inevitable, as Mr. Marone said, that if the council approves funding for any activity related to this, it will probably generate a referendum, and that's a good thing. That will allow the community to have a say in it, and that's what I'm in favor of.
Thank you. Crystal Eliscano, would you please ask the next question of Vincent Testa?
A recent Building Maintenance Committee report identified a host of concerns related to the lack of maintenance of town facilities. How would you address and prioritize this issue?
Well, by voting in favor of establishing that commission, that committee, that's step one, and that's what I did. I recognize that having an independent group of people with varying skills related to buildings, conditions and maintenance and so forth, would be helpful to us. A lot of times things happen and it's very easy for those in office or officials to say, oh, I didn't know about that. I didn't know it was that bad. I wasn't aware of this. Having a committee such as we have now, investigating and pointing out to the council and the administration, where there are needs is an important first step. But it's also important to remember with the way our town government is structured, the administration is responsible for directing the departments to do work. Town council cannot demand that anything gets done. We've approved funding. We can certainly request, we can pressure, we can bring things up, but it's important that there is a strong working, respectful working relationship between the administration and the council and this committee. And my experience level and my history, I think, shows that I'm one who works well with others. And so I would just continue to use the skills I have and the relationships I have to help be a part of the solution as opposed to just complaining about it.
Thank you. Christopher Regan.
So I am all for so I have a technology background. And from where I stand, putting together a portal online for citizens, for every citizen to report in some way, shape, or form different problems. We all have cell phones. We can take pictures on an app, perhaps, and report those and have them prioritized as, in different categories, et cetera. So I would, really emphasize the fact that we have the capacity to do it with today's technology, and it's a fairly easy solution that can be put together in short order.
Kate Ramuni, will you please ask the next question of Christina Tata?
The town will soon be welcoming a new mayor. What priorities would you like to see him set?
Oh, great question. So yes, for the first time in 40 years, Wallingford is going to have a new mayor. And I think over the past few years, we've all kind of seen priorities come to the forefront. We hear a lot about maintenance issues. We hear a lot about technology. Things that maybe have fallen by the wayside a smidge over the past few years. And so I think all of us understand what the priorities are, what people are looking for, and I'm hoping no matter who the new mayor is, that those priorities are addressed. So we certainly need to address our infrastructure. We sit in this room at council meetings, and it's a beautiful room. It's hard to see from the back, but it has gorgeous coffered ceilings. It's a beautiful, beautiful area, and for the past few years, there's been a leaking roof, and some of these gorgeous ceilings were leaking, and there's paint peeling. There were Band-Aids put on them, but that obviously needs to be addressed. The schools obviously have some maintenance issues that we need to address. And so I think whoever the new mayor is, obviously looking at those big picture items that we're hearing about from our constituents all the time, I'm hopeful that we can make some progress on those. Thank you.
Daryl Stancuna.
First of all, I'm really excited that about time our current mayor has stepped down, because it's been 40 years of a constant downfall, and basically there should be is this microphone on? I don't really hear it. there should be term limits on these types of positions. No one should be mayor more than 5 years. Basically, that he got way too comfortable. Too many people that got involved either became town councils, men or women, or Board of Education. What happens is it caused such a downfall in this town, and to clean it up may take another 40 years. It's not going to happen with the new mayor, whoever it is. They got a big, heavy load on them, and we need to have a town council with new people on here, not the old, not people that have been here 12 years or whatever. We need new ideas and what's best for the little man in this town. It's not about keeping people quiet. I want public speaking to be longer than the 2 minutes of shutting people down. Thank you.
Leah Butts, would you please ask the next question of Daryl Stancuna?
As the rate of technological change continues over the next several decades, how do you plan to address the challenges associated with technology infrastructure?
I'm very concerned. You know, I wanted to mention, thank you to my wife, Amy Stancuna. She's been with me 33 years. I love you very much. She just retired 28 years in town as an educator. I'm very concerned about the artificial intelligence that's been taking over. By making one school is a bad idea. You need to keep two to have a diversity of different ideas. By downsizing it to one, that means the opportunities are going to be very low. So I'm very concerned with the artificial intelligence taking over. I know people are in a rush about wanting to pay their stuff online and whatnot. I think we need to really assess that and not jump the gun and go directly to payments electronically. I think we have to narrow it down. It may take 6 months, a year to find out how we're going to do these payments electronically and whatnot, whether through Zelle, through other types of ways. But don't jump into this right away. And I'm very concerned about the community pool because it's a bad idea. It's been a big, bad cesspool. It's always got problems, and it's going to be a big money pit. We need to make it into a homeless shelter or a skateboard park. We have teenagers on the street aimlessly looking for help. We need to put concentration on them and the homeless. We've got homeless people, need a place to stay. If we want to turn the train station into possibly adding an additional homeless shelter, that'd be great. But adding the new police station for the adult education is not going to work because the police are leaving because they're complaining of the basement being moldy and whatnot. So how are you going to occupy it with the adult education programs? So I have a bad idea about that. And I think we need to fix that basement in the police station. I wish we could go back and just keep them there. That's a nice armory. And it's just going to cost way too much money on the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Tata, would you please respond?
Sure, thank you. And in regards to the technology, so I always try to focus on results. And I know we talk a lot about technology and what we want, what we need. And I think without definitive plans of what exactly we need to do, nothing will happen. And so one example, when I first was on the council, we talked about having Wi-Fi in the council chambers. And it had been something that had been going on and talked about for years, but the council was never able to get it. And I spoke to our chairman. I requested that the funding for that be put into our budget. It was put in our budget, and the council did ultimately get Wi-Fi for our meetings, which we use a lot. We rely on that. So I'm hoping, as we get into this new administration, the technology just becomes some specific ideas that we can definitely implement rather than just talking about it and nothing really happening. So hopefully I'll be a part of that. Thank you.
Leah Butts, would you please ask the next question of Joseph Marone?
Of course. Why is Harrison Park closed, and will it reopen?
Thanks, Leah. So that's a good question. So Harrison Park, I believe, was closed because of a maintenance issue. I know they were dumping the snow there a couple of winters ago, and then I believe that there was some kind of a maintenance issue or some kind of vagrancy or something in the park. I'm not entirely clear why it was closed. I know that there's concrete blocks up that are preventing people from entering the park, which I think leads us to sort of a larger question, right? Of like, why are the parks in the condition that they're in? And so, Harrison's, like, the parks is something that I'm very passionate about, right? because the parks are a function of government to keep and maintain the parks. So the fact that we have town departments or the administration just decides to close a park, I think is rather significant. And so I think you need a sort of a significant reason to close it. So I think that if you look at the parks, so for example, Councilor Tad and I had walked the parks, a few parks, select parks, actually with Mr. Michael to talk about some of the issues. We took some photographs of some of the things we saw, and I was a little concerned about some of the things I saw in the parks. And so we brought it, to the administration, we brought it to a council meeting, and we started talking about it. And that's one of the things that sort of led to the formation of this maintenance committee to sort of look at all of these issues. So the short answer to your question is there isn't a good reason it's closed. I mean, the parks need to be open and accessible to people. This is a basic function of government, right? And if the government can't perform the basic function, they need to sort of, look at how do you replace government, I suppose. Parks. Thanks.
Jason Michael, would you please respond?
Thank you. As a former sitting member of the Parks and Rec Commission for a decade and in the chair for a couple of years, I can tell you why it's closed. It's because someone at Public Works wants it closed. And I don't say someone knowing who, but that's what I've been told. I've stood in that aisle not 6 months ago, and that being the 4th or 5th time I've stood in that aisle and asked why our parks are closed. I've gotten the same answer. That's a Public Works issue. And I've asked Public Works, and I've been told, well, there was dumping in the parks. And it makes me kind of crazy because we can all prepare for November because they'll close the parking lots of about 3 or 4 other parks for the winter without reason. People dump water heaters and couches in the summer as well. I don't know if it's to cut back on maintenance hours. I don't know what the true reason is. It's wrong at every turn. The town, I think, just spent $10,000 or $20,000 putting asphalt curbing in on that road in Upper Harrison Park, and then put the blocks back out. I guess that's all the time I have.
Thank you. Crystal Eliscano, would you please ask the next question of Jason Michael?
There has been an ongoing debate about renovating the community pool. Do you support plans to renovate the pool? If so, what does the project entail? And if not, what would you like to see happen to the property?
Once again, thanks for the question. As I said, sat on the Parks and Rec Commission during the entire process. I was also vice chairman of the pool committee in its early years. We worked very hard for 4 or 5 years, from the germination of the idea straight through to the bid being awarded. The finish line is right here. It's still right here. What gets lost oftentimes, and we really tried hard to not have it be that way, was it's not just a pool. Everyone talks about the pool, the pool, the pool. This was to be a destination park, 7 acres, with a small amphitheater, an exercise circuit, a splash pad, probably bigger than the surrounding counties combined. And it was 3,000 or 4,000 square foot splash pad that would be open from April to September or October, weather permitting. Sometimes November, I'd imagine, the way we're going. But I absolutely think that having an aquatics facility, whether you'll put your feet in it at all, is of value to everyone. It raises the value of Wallingford. And it's a no-brainer. It's all there. The pieces are there. Yes, it's going to cost more than it would have, more than it should have. But it's undeniably a resource that builds community. It's in the name. And I'll be here Tuesday. We have a counselor right here, Mr. Testa, who will have it on the agenda. I urge everyone interested to please come.
Joseph Marone.
Thank you very much. I think the whole council was very supportive of the pool. I think I have fond memories of the pool as a kid. I learned to swim at the pool. I think we all want to see something happen, see the pool replaced. I really liked the plan they came up with the exercise circuit and all that. I thought it was an excellent plan, and I thought the cost was reasonable at the time that we voted on it. In Wallingford, it takes 2 sides to make any project move forward, right? So you need the council to appropriate the funds. You need the administration to move forward with the idea. One of those did not want to move forward with the idea, and that's just how it is. So whether the pool gets replaced or not is going to come down to the next administration and how they feel about moving forward with the pool. I am less excited about the pool right now because I think as I start to look back at all the projects we have to do in town, A lot of money needs to get spent on a lot of things, but I think the pool should be is a priority, and I think should be a priority. Because again, it's sort of a cornerstone of things for town. A lot of the talk was about, what's the cost of annual maintenance? We didn't allow people from out of town to use the pool. I mean, you could sell daily passes. There's a lot of ways that you could offset some of the costs of the pool. Thank you so much.
Kate Ramuni, would you please ask the next question of Jeffrey Necchio?
The town has earmarked ARPA money for municipal projects. How would you like to see that money spent?
Well, I would like to see some of that money used toward the pool. I think that's an opportunity for, in general, ARPA was meant to be used towards people who were adversely impacted by the pandemic. I thought we did a relatively good job when it was all said and done to attribute some of that money to nonprofits and to small businesses. But I think we also have to keep an eye on the ball when it comes to who will benefit from the balance of the ARPA money. And I think it has to go to people who were impacted by the pandemic, the people who were frontline, the people who are the waitresses and the waiters in the restaurants, the people who are the healthcare providers, the people who are at the upper echelon of the tax bracket. I got to work from home. It was really convenient for me. I didn't have to drive to Bristol to go to work. There are people who, live really just paycheck to paycheck, who were really hit by this pandemic. So I think it should go to projects that benefit them. I think the pool is an opportunity. I think a lot of people who live in dense housing, in apartments, don't have access to pools. And I think using that money toward, the balance of the pool would be nice. And that was my thought. Thank you.
Jesse Reynolds.
So I think the money should be spent on the whole community, and I think that's a larger discussion that we could have as to what that appropriate expenditure would be. I think putting it towards the pool would be a good idea. I also think we probably could have paid for the whole pool if we just used the money on the pool project by itself. I think had we invested the money directly into the community, directly into the town in terms of a municipal project, we would have had a lot. The money would have been spent faster. The project would have probably already been done by now. And that's something that we could have done. Having said that, I don't know how much money remains, and so I'm not sure what we can do with it. So whatever we spend the money on, it needs to go to everybody in the town. And so I'm eager to find out how much money is left.
Leah Butts, would you please ask the next question of Jesse Reynolds?
Of course. Mr. Reynolds, what is your position on the preservation of Wallingford farms?
So I think that preserving farms is a good idea, providing that the farms are still able to operate and be viable in our community. And I think as a town, we could probably have some discussions with the people that are in that business, that line of work, and to figure out what their needs are and what we could do to help promote that sort of thing. I think that open space, farmland are elements of Wallingford that were draws to when my family came here. My great-grandfather owned the farm that was now Farmer Joe's on the corner of Legas and 68. I'm related to the Wall family. They own the farm that's across 68. I come from farming people, although I do not pretend to be a farmer. I'm also a vegan, and during COVID, I know that food became sort of a problem. Locally sourced food, locally grown food is something that we could invest in heavily. It's a good idea. Farm shares are great things. So I think in order for us to preserve the farmland, we have to make farmland be profitable. If we cannot make farmland be profitable, then I am open to preserving it for open space. And if we can't do either of those things, then I'm open to hearing what other suggestions are. But in general, I think it's good that we grow our own food nearby. I think that it reduces the carbon footprint that we discussed earlier with respect to schools. And I think that it's an opportunity for there to be employment outside of other conventional things that people might be looking for when they get out of high school if they choose not to go to college. So, I think preserving farmland and preserving farms is a really good idea and something that we should look into, but I think it's a very complicated issue, and I think we need to do a lot of research before we move forward with it. Thank you.
Jeffrey Necchio.
I feel that, having farms adds to the diversity of our town. I think we're very lucky to have a very diverse, sections of town, from the center of town where you have a lot of concentration of, buildings and stuff, to go out to just the beautiful open space that we have. I think, with regards to farms, it's difficult to run a farm. I have a friend who owns a farm in Oxford, and it's, you're a victim to the weather. It's just a constant fight. So I give them a lot of credit. If there's anything that the town can do to support, farms within reason, I think it's fair. Otherwise, I think it's important to have open space, and I think we've utilized a lot of the open space in town, and it's a good resource for all. And beyond that, I'm always open to other uses as well. So.
Crystal Eliscano, would you please ask the next question of Christopher Regan?
If the schools are consolidated onto the Lyman Hall property, how would you like to see the Sheehan High School property used in the future?
Sure. Theoretically, if Sheehan ends up being vacated, it's a wonderful location for a number of different public services. We've got a great pool. We've got more than enough space for a Parks and Recs program to just expand and explode. We have a room for amphitheater. We have room for additional expansion from an education system as we move the community into more of a, we build a community. It's now the next space theoretically where there's not just ball fields and soccer fields, but places for people to have a picnic, perhaps watch fireworks, perhaps have expanded fairs and shows that we otherwise do not have the space for. So Sheehan would be a great opportunity to move in, perhaps the Board of Ed offices. There's a number of different things that if you take the building as a whole and reconfigure it, that we could adequately use that space without additional costs to the town.
Vincent Testa.
Thank you. I'm in a position where I don't see an opportunity to rebut. Mr. Reagan gave a very good answer. If in fact we were in that situation where that's where the town ended up going, then what could we do with Sheehan? And I think the idea of creating, moving our Park and Rec department over there, probably being able to move Board of Ed offices over there, it'd be an incredible recreational complex with other opportunities as well, using the educational facilities that are there. The opportunities are endless to be able to reuse that building in any number of ways to benefit the whole community. But that's a far off if at this point in time.
Kate Ramuni, would you please ask the next question of Vincent Testa?
The council recently approved the state-mandated fair rent commission, but excluded public housing. Should those tenants have access to the commission for problems with living conditions?
I'm glad you asked that, because that point was brought up actually by Mr. Reynolds here, and during the question and answer period. I think, and it was discovered that the reason public housing was excluded was primarily because public housing rents are determined by formulas that, so there would never be a need to appeal one's rent to a fair rent commission. But he brought up the fact that, well, there are other components in this legislation that have to do with living conditions and other such things, and people need some recourse. Where do they go? What can they do? And I think the sense on the council was, I didn't hear anybody that was averse to reconsidering that part of the ordinance. And my position was, we've gotten this far. Let's pass this as we were supposed to, and have the opportunity to take a look at maybe revising it a little bit once we find out from the law department how we could change some of the language that would provide people in public housing and state and federal, if that happens to come into play, with the same protections that are separate from those that are rent-related.
Christopher Regan.
So I completely support having public housing and having the opportunity for individuals to go to a higher power to get with government, with a fair housing committee, in order to rectify various problems that they may have. I mean, the alternative is to call town hall. The alternative is to do what? I think there's a gap that's been identified. It needs to be filled. The need is there, and we absolutely should be taking care of it as part of that committee.
Leah Butts, would you please ask the next question of Christina Tata?
Of course. Mrs. Tata, will you support a change in the town charter to allow for referendums to let the public decide on major issues such as the 2 versus 1 high school debate?
Great question, thank you. So I was the vice chair of the prior Charter Revision Commission, I believe it was back in 2017. And we looked at every issue in the charter at that point. And I believe this may have come up. And the way the charter stands now is that a referendum is triggered by the public, if they so choose, after an action of the council, or I believe, or of the administration. And so I don't know that I would be supportive of just having a blanket referendum option to change the charter to do so. I think, you know, when I think of our elected officials, we have 9 people on the council, and we're elected to represent the people and to make decisions that we think are best for our constituents. And when we do that, I think that's our job. That's our job to do it. And so to have a referendum on anything, or, you know, for just decisions over a certain dollar amount, like a lot of towns have, I think it maybe kind of downplays what the 9 people on the council do. And so I think our system, the way it is now, is good in that if there really is something that the people really completely disagree with, there is that option for a referendum. But the people have to choose. They have to take action to have that happen. And it's not just a blanket referendum, or maybe you don't get a lot of participation because you have them happening so often. So I think the way it's set up now is good. The option is still there, but it has to be put forth by the people. And so I kind of prefer the system the way it is now. Thank you.
Daryl Stankuna.
Yes, thank you so much. She's a very nice lady sitting next to me. She's very nice. And this is a discussion, and I totally disagree. I think it should go out to the public. There's been too much chaos up here with the town council. These guys been fighting each other, filing ethics charges. I just never seen such craziness. Switching parties, getting endorsed and switching parties on people. You have to look at who's really speaking clearly and being honest. I could stand here and say, hey, I want the poll to be open too, to win your vote. But the truth of the matter, it's not going to be open. There's way too many legal problems. It's been stated by the mayor. The bathroom issues have got to get bigger. There's all kinds of problems down there. The redo the poll may take millions of dollars. So it's not happening. I'm just letting you know right now. Some people don't like the real answers. They want to be stuck in the pipe dream. I'm not that type of person. So that's where I stand.
Crystal Eliscana, would you please ask the next question of Daryl Stankuna?
Should the town of Wallingford be doing more to encourage people of color to get involved in government positions?
That's an excellent question. And I'll tell you, they want to, but a lot of people don't let them. So there's a big blockade up here with the council. They don't want anybody involved. I try to speak up on the microphone. I've seen other people speak. They're cut off so quick. Or they don't like what you're saying on the microphone, so they'll say you're nasty. There's a lot of demand to push down minorities in this town. This is like one of the most racist towns in the country. This was, Mayor Dickinson was fighting not to honor Martin Luther King Day. It was so embarrassing. And he's the current mayor for 40 years. This guy was embarrassing the town. So I am very concerned about what's been going on here. We need new people, not people that change parties and get endorsed and say, I'm now unaffiliated. I'm a real unaffiliated. I'm a real person for the people. and lots of minorities been put down, let down, not let to go front. Basically, the housing in this town is way expensive, and it's not affordable. They'll say, oh yeah, we want people to come here. That's all baloney. If you really want somebody to really get broken into this town and get minorities a place to live cheap, a job, get bus fare going. Where are the buses? So this constant infighting in here is just really an embarrassment. We need buses all over town.
Christina Tata.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I would just say to that I want everyone to be involved, and I want the most qualified people for the job, no matter their race, no matter whoever it is. I just want the most qualified people to be involved, and I think as long as we have a welcoming and supportive council and people are getting along and we have a welcoming town, that we will have the best people and the most qualified people to fill those roles. Thank you.
Crystal Eliscano, would you please ask the next question of Joseph Marone?
What should be done to maintain the electric division? And would you support higher wages for electric division employees in light of competition in the industry?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the higher wages question is sort of fascinating to me, right? Because they're represented by unions. They're in trade agreements, right? And the town has a human resources department that negotiates with the unions. So if you conclude then that the wages are low, does that then mean that the unions have been ineffective in their representation of the people, or has the town's negotiating been so great that they are taking advantage of the unions? So I don't know how you answer that question and say the wages are wrong, and then agree that this sort of style of where we have the unions versus the town is working. I mean, you can't have it both ways, right? Either the system works, the wages are fair, or the system doesn't work and the wages aren't fair. So I think that if electricians or if workers, linemen and such that work for the electric division go to work for Eversource, I think they make more money, right? And those guys are also in a union. So it's hard for me I can't really understand where this system is broken. If you could make more money working for Eversource, then the wages, there probably is a problem with wages. But I'm not sure, how do you grant a general wage increase? What is the town going to get, as a negotiation on the other side of that, right? Because it's always a negotiation. So I think if you have a list of priorities of things you want to get, like direct deposit, like bi-weekly pay, things like that, maybe you use that as your negotiation to try to raise the wages. Because if the wages are low, and you need to address it, then you need to address it. But I mean, I don't know how you can conclude that, the system works and the wages are still low. So I think it's an interesting issue. I think that probably if you go across town, with the economic climate we've seen, with inflation, I think probably a lot of people's wages are low right now. But I think we're also in the midst of a housing bubble. So if the housing bubble breaks, then that could be, things could turn around. I work for a big company. We're in the midst of layoffs right now. A lot of other big companies are in the midst of layoffs. Those are sort of the things that depress wages, right? Because there's fewer jobs and so on. So I think it's easy to look at the recession and say wages are low.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Michael.
Thank you. So I own a few small businesses in town. One is a moderate-sized paint company, another is a small sewer and drain company, and the other is a small retail shop on Quinnipiac Street. So my wife and I have had employee numbers from 7 to 15 at times, and wages matter. Plain and simple. I've lost good people when we couldn't afford to pay them more. So the question is, can Wallingford afford to pay them more? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, I think I had heard in another speech during this season that Wallingford's government had the foresight in like 1898 to keep their own electric division. And even today, it proves to be one of the best decisions they've made. Everyone touts it, right? I also have a dear friend who's in this room whose spouse works for the Wallingford Electric Division. And I think that from what I've heard talking extensively with her, that it's not only fair wages, it's increased work hours, and I think that
Thank you.
that matters in retaining the workers you need to keep.
Kate Ramuni, would you please ask the next question of Jason Michael?
Next summer, the police department will be moving to its new headquarters, leaving the Armory empty. What would you like to see be done with the Armory? And if it were to come to it, would you support selling it?
So I had a really nice meeting with the chief, who's a fantastic guy, about 3 weeks ago, and this came up. And I know firsthand from him that he is interested in having a substation there. It makes sense. There should be a police presence uptown, downtown, especially if we're going to be revitalizing and building and high-density apartments. We need a presence here. I am also certainly in favor. I spoke to him about it because we knew the train station would be coming up. I chair the building maintenance committee currently. And obviously we've talked about the train station and it needs work. And not a person should be in it. So they need to move, there's no question. They have to go somewhere to repair this building. Even if they're going to stay, they have to go somewhere to repair this building. And the Armory, I think, would be a good fit. And if it's a multi-use building, because adult ed doesn't need that much space, it's still in walking distance, I think it makes great sense to have it there. I don't know if it can be split use with a substation and a school. It may not work out that way, but certainly, if and when the police do move, I am not in favor of selling a public asset like that. I think there are too many creative people in town who have too many good ideas of what it could be used for.
Joe Marone.
Thank you very much. I think that the Armory is sort of a white elephant in that it's a huge building. It's in need of massive renovations. And so I think to sell it, you would have to sell it at a fire sale. And I'm not sure that there would be many buyers that would be interested in it. I think pretty much the only thing you can do with it is if the town wants to invest the money, you can't get rid of it because it's a historic building, right? So I think if the town wants to invest the money, then you invest the money and perhaps move the Board of Education or adult ed or something like that to that building. But I don't see, I guess I wouldn't be in favor of selling it, and I don't see a future where you could reasonably sell it and make any kind of recovery on your investment. The parking isn't great. It needs a lot of work. Thank you very much.
Leah Butts, would you ask the next question of Jeffrey Necchio?
Of course. In your opinion, what is the best part of living in Wallingford? And what unique skills do you possess that can help to make it even better?
So I would say that it's the community. I moved to Wallingford about 25 years ago, and it was a very good decision. And it just so happened that I got a job at Masonicare, and I landed here. And over those years, I've had the opportunity to work with many organizations throughout the community. At Masonicare as a pharmacist, working within the care team for our patients. I joined the board at SCOW in 2011. And I've had the opportunity to meet so many different people, so many diverse people throughout our community, so many people who truly care about each other. We're a town rooted in community. And, I think that's really the shining star of our community, of our town. Anyway, so what was the other part of your question? Oh, what can I contribute? So I feel like throughout my work experience, throughout my volunteer experience, I've had the opportunity to work well within a team. I know what it's like to kind of negotiate, work with others, get people's ideas, and kind of form my own opinion, and find that middle ground. I think it's important to think about the greater good, to recognize the fact that everyone has the best of intentions, hopefully, and that maybe the means of getting to that point may be different, but I think coming together and working as a team is a characteristic that I hope to bring, to the council, and that I hope to bring every day.
Jesse Reynolds.
So I too agree that the best thing about Wallingford is the community, and the community is really lucky to live in a town like Wallingford, given the situation or where it's situated in the state. We're centrally located between two major cities. We're on a major rail line. We're centrally located between two even more major cities. And I think what that does is it presents a unique opportunity for Wallingford to, sort of grow into the future. What I would bring is I have a background in public health and epidemiology, and I'm also a biostatistician that works with data. I understand population projections. I understand trends and things like that. I think that I would be of service to a town like Wallingford that's looking to grow while maintaining its charm and its community. And I would be the kind of person that would be able to consider all of those things when being one of 9 voices on the council that helps make those decisions.
Crystal Eliscano, would you please ask the next question of Jesse Reynolds?
What would you do to address the issue of juvenile crime? Should the town provide more activities for the youth in order to keep them out of trouble?
So that's a very good question, and it's something that I've heard a lot about. I've walked a lot preparing for the election, knocking on doors and meeting with neighbors, and and hearing things about what had been happening down at Doolittle Park, what happened at Doolittle Park with the vandalism and such. And I also had the opportunity to meet with the director of the Park and Rec. I've been involved in the Wallingford Youth Soccer League, now the Wallingford Soccer Club, for a long time, and it's a very complicated issue. I know that the police have tried to do an improved job of dealing with juveniles. It's a complex dance between the community and parents and the police. But the thing that we really have to focus on here in terms of juvenile crime is that these are kids. And these are kids who are striking out and employing what I teach in my youth and sociology class as agency. Agency is the right to act on your own in the midst of a community. And what these kids mostly feel is powerless. And that's why they're disrupting your lives. That's why they're riding wheelies through town. It's why they're interrupting people at restaurants, is because they don't necessarily feel that the town provides things for them. And maybe that's maybe that's on them. And clearly we can talk about personal responsibility. But, when we have discussions about Choate's campus and whether or not Choate should give more money, and Choate is this beautiful, institution that is sort of educating our future leaders, our own schools are crumbling. And we've done nothing to address those things. We've talked a lot about it. We've had debates about it, but we've literally done nothing since 2018 when the schools were discussed. And so what we really ought to be doing is focusing on the things that kids have access to, our parks, our schools. I don't think the answer is more programs, but I think the answer is investment in these things. And it sends a signal to all kids that the community cares about them. And I think you'll see some reciprocity in the way that they behave. Thank you.
Jeffrey Necchio.
Well, I feel that the police are kind of, Wallingford is not an island. The state of Connecticut really is, it writes all the laws when it comes to criminal justice, and we kind of are kind of stuck with what we have to use as tools with regards to enforcement. Having said that, I think a lot of it comes back to the family for those kids, and working with the families, YSS, and, getting them involved. It's a really difficult issue. It really is. We have teen leadership programs at the Spanish community of Wallingford. We try to kind of direct our kids towards, careers and towards kind of having a productive direction and giving kids like a focus. But it is hard to find those kids that are kind of out there and bring them in. And, it's a difficult decision. And it's a tough question.
Kate Ramuni, would you please ask the next question of Christopher Regan?
The town recently held a job fair for openings in town departments. What more can the town do to attract and retain employees?
Great question, thank you. It was a good start. The town should be working with everything from local or state-based Connecticut technical schools to take a look at where there's electrician programs, there's HVAC programs, there's plumbing programs, et cetera, that allow those kids who graduate in those programs to see perhaps the light at the end of the tunnel. We talk about the need to bring up and train new individuals. That is the best place to start as far as a talent pool that's otherwise untapped. we also need to expand our use of different online, you have the Indeeds and you have the recruiter programs, and we should hire a recruiter in each of those individual areas where we have the most need, and go through a process where we fully vet, interview on a personal level instead of in an automated applicant tracking system based level, but have HR be very much involved with the department leaders as to exactly what the needs and opportunities are going forward. And it's not just the technical schools, it's the colleges, it's the communities in general. Thank you.
Vincent Testa.
Thank you. I teach at Lyman Hall High School, and I teach culinary arts, and I teach in what is known as the Career Technical Education Program, CTE. And our Board of Education deserves a lot of credit for continuing to develop that department and those programs in both high schools, and it's expanding. A lot of people talk about, I remember when we had wood shop. Well, we have some serious tech ed programs going on in the schools right now. However we go forward, whether we build one school, whether we renovate 2 schools, we can be confident that we're going to be expanding and building on our career technical education programs so that we can provide training, lifetime skill and career training to our own students who can then get jobs in this community. So we can fill the jobs we have with our own
Thank you.
people.
Yabutz, would you ask the next question of Vincent Testa?
Of course. Mr. Testa, there's been a lot in the news about public libraries and issues of banned books. Where do you stand on this issue?
Strongly against anybody attempting to do anything that resembles banning books. I feel very strongly about that. I get very emotional about it. Having said that, I am not ignoring the fact that there are degrees of appropriateness for different types of books, for different age levels. And that's why we have professional librarians. And our library is world class. We've got great people there. And they manage that library. Our schools manage our media centers. And I think it's important that we, and involving families, of course, as to what type of materials are available to what age level children. But I will always fight strongly against any efforts to remove books, ban books. There's an inherent undercurrent to that type of behavior that I find abhorrent.
Christopher Regan.
In my mind, in practice, there is no situation where banning of a book is appropriate. It is a parent's decision whether or not they want their child involved in perhaps reading of something that they find inappropriate. The parents should be in control of what the children, especially the younger children, read. The only effect of banning books is an increase in those book sales and additional readership, and making those books, more enticing to read because they are in fact banned. So there's no situation where it's appropriate.
Crystal Eliscano, would you please ask the next question of Christine Tejada?
What would you do to increase economic development in the center of town, and how would you address the vacancies downtown?
Sure, thank you for that. So being in business myself, I've grown up in my family's business. I see firsthand every day how the town that you're in affects your business. And when you're in a town that is not business friendly, or that has hurdles for you to get through to make your business successful, that is a very negative thing on businesses. And so in Wallingford, I think we are pretty business friendly. I do think there are things we can do to improve upon that. You know, the businesses in town, that helps our tax base. It helps with employment. There's so many things that the businesses provide that we need in town. And to have a business-friendly town, from planning and zoning to economic development to ordinances that we make on the council, there's so many things that make a town business-friendly, and I think we need to really focus on that and understand how the decisions that we make are affecting those businesses. And so in order to address vacancies, I think it needs to be every single department having that as a priority and listening to the businesses and listening to those business owners and understanding what we can do to help them succeed. Thank you.
Daryl Stancuna.
Good job, Mrs. Tata. I think when I become town council, I've been trying to push this for years. I've been on that microphone many times. A lot of people have heard me. I've been trying to say, let's get some big name rock bands. Not the wet band, the guys that play. They're nice people. It has nothing to do with them. Cervoni tried to twist it like I don't like their music, and it has nothing to do with that. We need big title names to bring in businesses. I know we do the Taste of Wallingford, but that's just a gathering of all of us getting together to party, which is great. These businesses need big names. I want to start with the Southern rock bands this summer, the first annual, and get some big names up here. Michael Bolton, the Allman Brothers. I want to get some big names because that brings people from all across the state to see the little guy trying to make a living out here. I drove all the way to Enfield, had a good time at Michael Allman Brothers and hung out in Enfield. We got to bring these bands in, and that's what I want to do when I win.
Kate Ramuni, would you please ask the last question of Daryl Stancuna?
There's been criticism that the town has lost out on grants because it doesn't have a full-time grant writer. Would you support the creation of that position?
Yes, absolutely. We need a grant writer. We've been needing a lot of stuff that's empty. And I don't know if it's going to be one of these two guys, Cervoni or Riley, that are going to do it. But whoever gets in there, I want to put a lot of pressure on getting one of these grant writers. We've been denied so many different opportunities that passed us by trying to thinking we're saving money when it's costing tons of millions of dollars. This town has been starving for business opportunities and people to look into what kind of ventures we can bring involved with the town, like the bus situation. We need more buses for minorities or whoever can't afford where they live to be near downtown to come to a local meeting. So yes, I definitely support that fully.
Christina Tata.
Thank you. I absolutely support that. I think that is a position that pays for itself. You know, you get one grant and that position is paid for. And I know there's talk that we've missed out on some grant opportunities. I know recently Cheshire received a STEEP grant, and I believe they're installing a splash pad at their existing pool. They're going to use that STEEP grant to do so. And that's something that, would have been great if we could have gotten. Now, I don't know if we applied for that. I'm not sure. But when I see other towns getting money for things like that, and then I see that, sometimes we're not getting those same grants, I wonder if we can't be doing more to apply for those. And so, yes, I absolutely support a full-time grant writer. One to start. I mean, I guess if it goes really well, you could even hire two, because like I said, that's a position that pays for itself. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer portion of the program. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Joseph Marone, would you please start?
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank the Wallingford community women, Gina McFarland for moderating the debate, Kate, Leah, and Crystal for your great questions. As I look at this dais and the people next to me, I have a certain personal connection with everyone on this dais, right? Either, we're friends, we've had dinner, I know them through the community, our kids know each other, sports, school, et cetera, et cetera. So it's funny because Then I look at the mayor's race, right? And I see people throwing barbs and throwing stones at each other. And I say to myself, how is it that these people up here that are my friends and neighbors, right? And I wouldn't throw a barb at these people because, again, I have a relationship with them. How is it that we get to the mayor's race and it's all about accusations and attacking members of the community and these kinds of things? And I say to myself, I'm not sure how we got there to this us-them, right? Everyone up here kind of wants the same things. We all teach our kids tolerance, right? Because we want to be tolerant. But if you hear an idea that you don't like and your first impulse is to throw a stone, perhaps you need a little self-reflection because that's not exactly tolerant, right? And so I think that some of the stuff that's come to Wallingford in terms of the PAC money and some of the other things is kind of yucky. And those are the kinds of things that I have a real problem with. Why would you want to vote for me? Police, fire, roads, parks, and education, right? Those are the things I care about. Those are the basic functions of government. That's what I'm here to protect and to see move forward. There's a lot of nice things we could be doing, but those are the things that we are required to focus on. I voted with the majority. I voted against the majority. I have no ill will against anyone up here. I think that everyone works hard to do the best that they can for Wallingford. Am I the best guy in town for this job? Not by a long shot, but I'm the guy, I'm a fixed point. I'm the guy that will stand up here and fight despite the fact that, you can say things about me or whatever, but this is how my role is to fight for you. And so that's what I intend to do. I love this town. Let's try to keep it tolerant, Wallingford, and good luck to everyone up here.
Jason Michael.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone who's made this possible. I wish I could talk as fast as Joe, because I could get more words in, but I'll do my best. I'm a third-generation Wallingford native, as is my wife. We met when we were 19, and it was in the year of 1992. And I waited until June 4th to ask her out, because it was zip code day, 06492. She's probably rolling her eyes. But I haven't forgotten it, ever. Now, don't ask me when we got married, because I couldn't tell you, but I know when we got together. And we've both been dedicated to paying back our community for as long as I can remember. For the better part of 15 years, I've served on committees and commissions, and I've served that way 10 years or so on the Parks and Rec Commission with multiple and consecutive appointments by the mayor. At the end of that chapter, I was approached by a couple of Republican councilors and asked to put my hat in the ring for the building maintenance consideration. I had taken that happily and was appointed. I wouldn't be sitting here without a full-throated endorsement from the Democratic Committee. I am unaffiliated. I've always been. And it allows me to work for Wallingford. It's the first thing that pops in my head. I challenge any of you when you leave here and see a councilor sitting here and ask them if I've ever come to them with an issue that's got a political bend to it. It doesn't matter to me. Wallingford matters to me. That's it. Full stop.
Jeffrey Necchio.
I feel so incredibly fortunate to have just by chance ended up in this town. I look back over the past 25 years and I realize just how many wonderful people I've met by living here and just how many opportunities that I've had. Between my work at Masonic here, my work at SCOW, my time on the Board of Health, and inland wetlands, it's just been, it's been wonderful just being able to have the opportunities that I've had. The election of a new mayor, a new council chairman, a new Board of Ed chair, gives us an opportunity to step back and look at, all the reasons why Wallingford's so great, but it also gives us a chance to plan for the future and what we need to do to position Wallingford for success going forward. Yes, we have to continue to work with our Economic Development Commission to bring more businesses in. We need to look at our infrastructure and set up a plan so that we can move forward and remediating a lot of the issues that are out there with our sidewalks, our buildings, our schools. We need to continue to look at technology and bringing it to Town Hall, not only to improve access for our taxpayers, but also to improve the efficiency and effectiveness in which our town employees do their jobs, bringing them into the future. So I've always had a desire to serve. I feel at this point that this is an opportunity for me to give more, and that's why I'm running, and that's why I'm asking for your support. Thanks.
Jesse Reynolds.
So Thank you to the Wallingford Community Women for organizing this event. Thank you to Wallingford Government Media for all the work they put into this. And also thank you to Kate, Crystal, and Leah for your questions. Thank you to everybody that's running, both in the room from last night, running for mayor. You know, it's an obligation, but it's also, in my opinion, it's also a pleasure. I have had the joy of knocking on doors since May, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. And the one thing that we all agree on is that this is a really exciting opportunity for our town. And that opportunity involves investing in our infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I just don't mean our roads and our sidewalks. I mean the bones of our town. It could be our buildings, but it's also the things that bind us, and it's our schools, and it's the technology that we use that connects everybody in town hall. We need to get into the habit of picking up a phone and calling people when we have problems. We need to get back into the habit of going directly to people and talking to them face to face to resolve issues, rather than rely on social media, relying on, even maybe getting up at town meetings and maybe being a little bit too angry. And so I think we need a little bit more of that. We need a little bit more civility. The thing that I really have to really focus on is I need to thank my family and my friends and my supporters. I have to thank my wife, Christine, and my sons, Ian and Finn, who've let me do this multiple times. I'm going to be one of 9 voices on this council when elected. And the thing that I promise that I will bring to you is a clear mind and the ability to work across the aisle with anybody who's serving with me. And I will be one of 9 voices, and regardless of whether I'm in the majority or the minority, you have my word that I'll support the actions of the council and I'll support the council's work. And that's something that I promise to you, the voters. I hope to have your vote on November 7th and vote row A. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Regan.
So first, thank you for all, for the opportunity to me to attend tonight, and thank you all to put this together, the text and to broadcast this. There are 2 areas that I focus my daily energy on. The first one is something that I heard 25 years ago, and that was the biggest gift you can give to your children are roots and wings. I have rooted my family here in town. I have 2 children that have graduated high school. I have 1 child that will graduate this coming June. And I believe that my wife and I have successfully rooted them into the heart and soul of Wallingford, the good, the bad, the ugly. What the town has afforded them as children are something that I hope their children's follow the same way. The second being wings. It's wings to explore. When you're a child, all you look at is your immediate surroundings. You may not be able to see much further than that, but to look at the world and to grow and expand into the world. The second focus of my life is the basic premise to lead, follow, or get out of the way. I have led Connecticut's largest service-disabled veteran small business for the last 27 years. I follow my legal contracts, my financial people, my operational teams, etc., and I know how to get things done, and I know when to step back and let others get things done. I understand that the purpose of government is here to serve the citizens. I think in some cases we've lost light of that. But I do not want, and I will not be an inhibitor to get things, to get residents, to get businesses, and to get this community back together in a healthy way. So thank you. Finally, I look forward to earning your vote this November 7th.
Thank you. Vincent Testa.
Thank you. Wallingford Community Women, I want to thank you for tonight. Crystal, Leah, Kate, great job. Thank you very much. And I want to thank all the viewers here and at home for taking the time to listen to all of the candidates. And that's how this is supposed to work. I've participated in a lot of these, and I've been fortunate to have been able to serve you for over 25 years. And when I was thinking about how I might, my closing statement, what it would be, I realized I've been giving the same one for probably 4, 5, 6 years, 8 years, and that's not because I'm lazy. It's because the points I make, I always want to make them again, and then I realize I said this last time. But what is it? I'm thankful for the opportunity to have an effect on the quality of life in my hometown. I grew up here, and I've been honored to have been returned to office many times by you to do the job, and I never take that for granted, and I take the responsibilities very seriously, and it still excites me, and I still feel like I'm effective, and I want to continue to serve. My colleague, Mr. Fishbein, made this sly little comment that he's the longest consecutively serving counselor. He's shrewd. I've got him by at least a term, but I had a break in mine, so I'm the longest serving. So there you go, Craig. We live in a time when political discourse is just getting so bad on a national level, everywhere we turn. I pride myself on the fact that I can work so well with my colleagues, respectfully. I'm effective in that respect. I respect all of them, and
Thank you.
And I ask for your support for one more term, and I thank you.
Christina Tata.
Thank you. We're in a transformative time in Wallingford right now. So for the first time in 40 years, we're going to have a new mayor. We'll have new council leadership, new Board of Ed leadership. And so with that transformation, with change, I think comes some positive, there's anticipation of some good we can do and maybe address some of the things that we think have gotten a little bit stale. And also probably some trepidation, because there's always unknown with change. And I'm hoping that what I offer is that I've been a consistent voice on the council, I think, over my last 2 terms. I think you know that I will go over the budget line by line, question every single item in there, as I've done in the past. All 4 of my last budgets, I've come up with amendments. Some have passed, some have not passed, but all 4 times my amendments received bipartisan support. And I think that's what I offer as a counselor. That I can work with everybody and hopefully gain the respect of my fellow counselors and of the constituents. So I look at it as an election as a report card, and I'm hoping that you'll honor me again with letting me represent you for another term. I have a hard time sitting up here and kind of going through the things that I've done. It's an uncomfortable thing to do, and maybe that makes me a bad politician. But I hope that what you see with me is that I look at every single issue on its merits, and that I vote accordingly. I've been in some of the majority votes, I've been in some of the minority votes. I've had a few 8-to-1 votes where I'm the one. But I look at every single issue based on that issue, and I hope that that's come across and that I've earned your trust for another term. So I would appreciate a vote for me, Christina Tata, on November 7th. Thank you.
Daryl Stancuna.
I've lived in this town 54 years, and this has been nothing but a constant slide of avalanches, and lately it's just been getting bigger and bigger of avalanches, and there's more to come. A lot of things aren't being addressed up here. A lot of in-house fighting amongst the counselors, ethics stuff, and this and that. We need things done up here. I ran in 2017, 6 years ago. I said, you know what, I'm going to do it one time. I'm back up here now because nothing's getting done up here. There's no buses going around the whole town. They say they want people to live here. That's baloney. The community pool needs to be restored as a medical building for people that we talked about tonight that don't have money. Nothing was talked about the homelessness in this town. Everything's been hidden and trying to hide what the problems are in this town. We need a clinic. I've got doctors that are ready to volunteer with timesheets of when I need them to provide care for people that need it in this town. We have a lot of money here, lots of money. We need to start helping people. And as far as the kids in town and the education, we really need to focus on them. We need a program. I want to ride shotgun on all 3 shifts with the police department. No one's mentioned about the police. We had an incident Monday night. Someone was killed, which there's a lot of problems with that. There's constant police brutality in this town since I was little. And it's gotten worse because this town hall lets it happen. And I need to be on the town hall to ride for free, all 3 shifts, do evaluations, monitor the teenagers in town, keep track of what people need help with, and provide that for them. That's what I want to do as your town councilman. I've been retired 8.5 years. No, I didn't run a business, but I know how to make $1 million. But I'm here to help my community for free. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes part 2 of the 2023 Town Council Candidates Forum. On behalf of the Wallingford Community Women, I thank you for watching and remind you to vote on November 7th.